fine.
Oh, you can do it.
No.
Well, I'm trying to use the camera, the Metro East camera,
I'll be back.
and every time I test it, it works, and then I come in here and it doesn't.
I wonder if they,
We're fine. This is the other camera.
they won't.
Yeah, he's sitting in the waiting room.
All right. Call to order the Urban Renewal Agency meeting for Wednesday, October 15th, 2025. We could please have a roll call.
Yes, so as board members, I'm gonna call by your last name. Todd,
Present.
Copeland,
Here.
Owen,
Here.
Dennerline,
With bells on.
Parker,
Here.
Weber,
Here.
and Chair Kuderna.
And here. Next on the agenda is to review and adopt the minutes from September 19th, 2025. Are there any additions, subtractions, comments?
A motion to approve, adopt the minutes of September 19th.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next item, Sarah Sullivan, come on down. We've got the Adopt a Tenant Improvement Grant Programs Resolution 3-2025. I know. Doing the top tag team on us. Sorry, going back to my Portland wrestling days. And Rick Martell.
Started already.
Hey, look at that.
Good evening. I'm Sarah Sullivan, Community Development Director, and
I'm Nate Midgley, the project manager.
so Nate and I are going to co-present, and Nate is going to do the first part of the presentation, so I'll turn it over to him.
Sarah, yeah, so tonight we'll be discussing the new program guidelines for the tenant improvement grant and development grant programs. And so this presentation will be structured as follows. First, we'll review the criteria to the new tenant improvement grant program based on the direction provided by the board at the September 17th board meeting. This will include a short discussion of feedback from the Economic Development Advisory Committee, as well as a description of the resolution for adoption of the program before you this evening. From there, we'll go into a discussion of remaining questions concerning the new development grant program. At the conclusion of these conversations, we'll discuss the next steps in these processes for both of the grant programs in the short term and the longer term. And so to begin with the tenant improvement grant program, and as discussed at the September 17th board meeting, the overall program scope of the previous iteration of this program was very broad. And at the meeting, the board decided to split the program into two separate programs, one being a tenant improvement grant program, which we're discussing now, and also a new development grant program, which we'll discuss here shortly. So with that split, the board then provided the following direction on the criteria for the tenant improvement grant program. And so under the new guidelines, this program will provide a matching grant with a maximum URA contribution of $50,000. Matching funds can then come from the property owner, business owner, or a combination of both. In addition, certain basic plumbing and electrical improvements are no longer eligible for program funds. These funds are now dedicated to more tenant-specific uses. In addition, the new guidelines expand the eligible business type to include nonprofit organizations and locally owned chains with up to 10 locations. Current businesses are eligible to receive grant funds if they use them to increase service capacity or offerings and create jobs. And finally, the program area has been limited from the entire URA area under the previous grant program to the now commercial mixed-use areas of the village, Halsey Corridor, and along Sandy Boulevard. In addition, staff have also taken this opportunity to improve the associated program materials, including an easy to navigate online form and streamlined application instructions and program guidelines. Basically, we've tried to reduce the redundancy, simplify things, and make the whole program easier to follow and apply for. And at the October 2nd EDAC meeting, the committee provided some feedback on the newly proposed program guidelines and were generally in support of the new direction of the program. Though members of the development and landlord community continue to voice support for the higher maximum grant award of $100,000 included in the previous development grant programs guidelines. All of that said, at the end of this presentation, the board will have a chance to vote on Resolution 3, 2025, which adopts the new guidelines for the tenant improvement grant program. The resolution also officially rescinds the previous URA development grant program and provides a start date of Monday, October 20th, 2025 for the new program. And then that, over to Sarah.
Excellent. So we got some great direction from the board in September about the tenant improvement program. As we started going through the non-tenant improvement portion of the existing program, we sort of determined that there would be some additional feedback desired from the board before we actually drew up those program materials. So I'd like to go over that information now. And I am just going to note that we do have one person who wishes to make comment. So after the conclusion of the presentation, we can admit that person before your discussion. So what is kind of left after taking the tenant improvement portion of the program and setting that aside into its own distinct set of guidelines? Kind of comes down to support for new development, essentially removing barriers to development. So based on what is in the current program and a little bit of, I guess, refinement and consolidation, there are several different eligible activities. This includes structure demolition or environmental assessment for buildings or sites, consulting assistance to evaluate development options, mitigation of environmental issue, removing infrastructure barriers, lot consolidation, and potential physical construction activities as approved by the agency. And the city has received 2 different grant applications in the past that fall under these categories. They were related to floodplain and wetland constraints on properties. Neither of those ended up moving forward for reasons. So it is something that's not been as popular as the tenant improvement grants. However, there are still constraints on developable property that this could be used for. And I will just note that there is another project in the urban renewal plan itself that would provide opportunities to fund assistance for projects like the Heart of Fairview, where the city is involved in that development process. So I guess the question from the board this evening will be, Are these still the right priorities for grant funding? Assistance in removing development barriers, are these sort of the right eligible activities? Should anything be added or removed? I guess, is this still a priority to provide funding through the renewal funds for these types of activities? Or is there any different direction that the board would like to provide? So, you know, if this development readiness grant program becomes its own standalone piece, should the same maximum dollar amount apply up to $50,000 as a matching grant? Should the program area be the same, really focusing in on encouraging development along the Halsey corridor, Fairview Village, and Sandy Boulevard, really the city's mixed-use areas? And then I guess we were thinking about who eligible applicants would be. It would need to be a little bit different than the tenant improvement grants. It could potentially be property owners and people who are under contract to purchase a property, who sometimes stay under contract until they have their land use entitlement. So tonight's action, the board is asked to consider the staff recommendation, which is to approve resolution 3-2025, adopting the new tenant improvement grant program, and then provide some additional feedback to staff on the development grant program. And if we resolve questions and get sufficient direction on the development grant program, staff would be able to come back on December 3rd with those program guidelines for adoption. If more discussion is needed, we could schedule a follow-up work session. And then just to quickly review in terms of future grants, there's a little under $200,000 remaining in the budget this fiscal year for grants. And then when the next budget cycle comes up, it would be an opportunity to review the allocation as part of adopting the renewal budget. And then, you know, as we've done now, I think we will continue evaluating the effectiveness of this program to determine that it is meeting the city's objectives and a good fit for our development and business community. So that is all that we have.
Okay. I believe before we go into discussion, we do have online testimonial. Our city recorder is going to come up and coordinate that for us. There we go.
Can I get a wave or a thumbs up if you can hear me?
Yep, hear you just fine.
Love that. My name is Eric Squires. I'm a principal broker at All Professionals Real Estate. I currently have about 7,000 square feet for lease in the town center, and my remarks are brief and all positive. I'd like to thank both Sarah and Alex for consistently delivering excellent responses to questions from the public that I've delivered or they had. I think the program is, with these refinements, are moving in an excellent direction. The only hint of a suggestion I'd have for you is that we're reducing the amount. And I think that's a head scratcher in the public. And I look at it as a gift. 50,000 or up to 50,000 is a great dollar amount. It's coming down from 100,000. And I think I've got some folks on the sidelines that are thinking about leasing, and they're really looking at the money here. These are public dollars, and I want to thank you all for the volunteer service you're providing to the community. I sit on a couple boards and commissions. This can be interesting and sometimes tough work, but I wanted to show respect and support for the direction that you're going in, because I think we do want to build a vibrant downtown core, and we've got a lot of empty storefront. And I think this hopefully will eventually become a carrot that brings in the people that are going to populate our downtown. I'm going to log off unless there's any questions for me, but thank you all for making this program work and pushing it in the direction that it's going. So thank you.
Real quick, Mr. Squires, just for the record, if you can give us your city of residence, please.
So I don't live in a city. I live in unincorporated Aloha, which is in between Beaverton and Hillsborough, but I'm a broker that works statewide, Lakeview, Harney County, Oregon coast. And so Fairview's also home. But right now I'm at my home in Aloha, Oregon. Thank you.
Okay, no worries. Any questions? All right, thank you very much. We appreciate your comments. Okay, any comments from council regarding this program, regarding the proposed changes? Councilor Mark.
Do you think the program is not going to be as robust as it has been since we are going to be lowering the money?
I think there's still a lot of interest in the program, and not every city has a $50,000 tenant improvement grant program. As we reviewed the last time, we have awarded grants that have exceeded that dollar amount in the past. And I know that doing substantial tenant improvements, depending upon what the use is, they can get quite expensive. They could be $200,000 or more to improve like that 7,000 square foot space at Village and Market that Eric Squires is representing. So I think what the development community was kind of saying is 100,000 really sets Fairview apart, and we're trying to compete with other places where businesses may be looking to locate, some of which may have grant programs. We reviewed some of those other cities at the last meeting. Our adjacent cities to Fairview, Gresham, Wood Village, and Troutdale, they do not have an urban renewal matching grant program. So we're set apart by having one at all. But I think that, what the landlords are saying is they're having trouble leasing the space, and the more competitive we can be, the better. But I do still think there will be interest. We sent out, I think there are at least 5 different businesses who we've corresponded with over the last couple of months, and we've been keeping informed about this process. So hopefully that once the program reopens, they will be able to apply.
Sarah?
Member Deneley.
Are we talking about just the TI stuff right now, or are we going to fold into development as well?
Let's just talk about the TI, if there are any questions on that.
That's fine, that's, and as far as TI goes, I think this is what I was looking for. I like to see what happens. I mean, and this comes back to, economic development and all this. I want to see the barber shop open up, so I need to drive somewhere to get my hair cut. I want to see,
You know what you mean?
okay, really.
Ice cream parlor.
Yeah, I mean, all of these little things that we keep talking about that we used to have, and if this brings them in, great.
Okay. Anybody else? Member Todd?
I was at the EDAC meeting, for what it's worth, EDAC liked the changes that we had and how we went about it of making it so that this was not paying for the basic utilities that, the spaces need for anything to go in there, and that it was targeted at the tenant-specific improvements, and that it was matching. and there was positive feedback on that. But again, yeah, the only thing was like, maybe if something, there might be something where it needs more money. It's like, well, this is a matching grant. So it's, if we're giving 50, that means that 100, that another 50 is being spent, which means there is 100. And I'm happy with that, but I'm happy with and I'm also happy with the changes as far as what I referred to as the salt and straw rule, that local chains of up to 10 can take advantage of it. But it, excludes things where they don't need the money.
We can have a Salt and Straw, we can't have a Dutch Brothers.
Yes, exactly. Well, we can't have a drive-through in Fairview anyway, but anyway, so I'm very happy with this.
Ron?
No, this is definitely, I think, a step in the right direction from where we, when we had that last request come in from here in the village, I mean, to me, that was really a wake-up call. And that's what got us here today. So, I sense that there are some, from a development perspective, that would like to see more. But the fact that we have stepped out and we are participating in a program that could provide some assistance is good. So, I totally support this, the change of the 50,000, and look forward to seeing who lines up after we approve this, since we evidently have some interest that could potentially come starting Monday or something. That would be good.
As far as, I would just echo everything that was said here. I'm really encouraged by this. One of the things I would like to point out is budgets are being cut all across the state. Everything's being cut. And yes, I understand, we would like more of an incentive. So would everybody. We have to watch our pennies. And this is one of the ways we can do that. If that can't be understood, I'm sorry. There's not much I can say about that. We're still offering this program. We're still offering this matching grant, which is more, as you said, than any of our neighboring cities. If that doesn't set ourselves apart in East County, I'm not interested in throwing out more money to encourage things. I think we're doing a pretty good job with this program. So I like it.
And if in the future, our urban renewal, fund changes and the council, the board wishes to allocate budget additional money in a fiscal year, and we're finding that the grant program isn't bringing enough businesses, you can always change the maximum grant award.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. We're going over to the development side now?
Yes.
Okay.
So thoughts on the development grant program, which would assist with preparing properties for development instead of bringing in specific businesses to existing spaces. This is something that is part of our current program, and should that continue, and if so, should those categories that were listed in the staff report, I can just kind of, structured demolition, consulting assistance, mitigation of environmental issues, removing infrastructure barriers, rock consolidation, construction activities, be eligible, be the list of eligible items for that program.
Any questions?
I have tons of comments, I was just waiting for somebody else to go first. Anything?
Go for it.
My note here is, isn't this what developers do? They take a risk. They're not guaranteed something. They take a risk. They may make money, they won't. And it seems like what we have is a bunch of developers, or at least a couple of developers, who don't want to have any risk. You do all of this, you clean the slate, and we'll come in with our money and build the thing and take the money. And so none of these things, to me, this is what developers do. Developers come in and they clear land, and they do this, and they have consultants, and they build stuff, and they may make money. Hopefully they make money. I certainly don't want them to not make money, but they have to assume the risk of losing money too. And for far too long in the city, and this is why I got involved with the planning commission and everything else, was because developers waltzed in, and said, give me this, give me this, give me this, give me this. I build my building, I take my profit, and I go live in Lake Oswego or Yakima or wherever. And that's what I'm tired of. We're not making any more land. At some point, someday, somebody's gonna go, wow, Fairview still has land, let's go there. But for now, especially the most successful developer in my eyes in Fairview is Daewoo. Because I've watched him for 20+ years, starting off in the corner where the Chevron station or Texaco station used to be, building that from scratch, didn't ask the city for a dime. And that is arguably the hub of Halsey. More people do business with Daewoo than anything else. So I'm not in favor of doing a whole lot here. If we table this for a while, I'm fine. Let's see what the TI stuff does. And if a developer comes in and says, hey, can you maybe do this or maybe do this, that's fine. But otherwise, you know, this is what developers do. There is risk. And it seems like we get developers who don't want any risk whatsoever. So that's my 5 cents.
Okay. Member Owen?
Yeah, I mean, member Dinnerline, no, I totally agree. I just can't imagine a day that I feel like we should be considering bridging that risk as it relates from a development standpoint. So I heard the word table. I think that would be a reasonable thing to do at this point in order just to kind of move this all forward, take a step back. And if, you know, for something were to really happen out there that really spiked our interest, I think there's always potentially room for discussion, but I think just as a general recommendation or giving staff direction, I don't know why we would do this.
Anybody else?
Don't have anything to add to what's been said.
Yeah, same here. I work with developers every day, and it is part of the risk. I see some win, most win, some lose. It's just, that is the way it works. What I've been wanting to do is grow smartly, not quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And because we do have a finite amount of land left that we can develop, I want to make sure that it's done right, not fast. So I'm in favor of tabling this for a while. I don't think there's any rush to put this into place. We can have up to 2 meetings a month. We can certainly talk, but at this point, I'm not. Anybody else? Okay,
That sounds good.
thank you.
Okay, I think it makes sense within the project community and the amount of interest we have in the TI grants.
Yeah, I'd like to, let's fill out what we have first.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
Great.
As opposed to creating one.
We've got plenty of space.
We've got it.
I want a barber shop.
Let's do it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, is the board prepared to make a motion to adopt the resolution?
It's just a TI resolution.
I think it's just, I mean, I would suspect that we would be okay with adopting the resolution as it relates to the tenant improvement grant program.
Yes.
That does not include the development grant program.
Yes, the resolution only includes the tenant improvement grant program.
Okay, do we have a?
Well, when you say that it only includes, the one I'm looking at, it has both words in it.
The previous one that resolution rescinded was also called the Development Grant Program. It's a little bit of, I believe that.
I mean,
What page in the packet are you looking at?
it's a good
The resolution's on 15. The resolution says.
question. I'm looking at page 15 and 52, there is it says a tenant improvement grant program and development grant program. Is there something different?
Let's see. I am looking at page 15. Hold on a second. I'm seeing.
You're looking at.
I see it. I see what Steve sees.
It's rescinded, right?
It's the third whereas, the last sentence of the third whereas.
And the development grant program.
And, yeah,
Well, we can make the motion with striking that.
yes.
Okay, sounds great.
That's not a problem. So whoever wants to make the motion, you go ahead and approve resolution with the removal of the development grant program.
Okay, I'd make a motion to approve Resolution 3, 2025, and omit any reference to development grant program.
Second?
I heard member Denneline. Maybe that's because he's closer. Sound travel less. It's entirely possible.
Gotta be louder, Paul.
Yeah, come on. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Good eyes, by the way. Okay, next is fiscal year 2021 to 2022 audit presentation.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Oh, good.
There he is.
So I'm Rob Tremper, audit partner at Dickey and Tremper LLP, and we've been doing the city's audit for a few years. And as you're well aware, both the city and Urban Renewal are a bit behind on getting their audits completed, but we presented, I think in June, the FY21 audit, and just a few months later now, we're presenting the FY22 audit. And then the FY23 audit fieldwork is tentatively scheduled for January. So things are moving forward and hopefully getting caught up. And probably it'll take a couple of years if we're doing 2 a year, but things are moving in the right direction. With the short time frame between the FY21 audit and the one we're looking at today for fiscal year 2022. There's really not a lot of changes that could have been done. So I'd say several of the comments that we had in the last engagement are going to look pretty similar to where we're at right now. We definitely have seen some improvements as some of those pieces went through. Marine and Company has hopped in and has been cleaning up a lot of places, and things are going forward. So I don't know if you ended up with paper copies of everything or just electronic, but there's a couple letters that we try to go through, and I'll touch the financial statements, but since the information's a few years old, that probably not going to dig too deep into the numbers. So the first letter is a letter separate from the financial statement that says to the board of directors of the Fairview Urban Renewal Agency on the top. And so this is a follow-up letter as to kind of a wrap-up letter, required communications to those charged with governance that follows up on letters we sent earlier on in the engagement, asking for any input or risk areas, related party transactions that you are aware of. And so this kind of wraps up where we were at. A few things I want to cover in here is when we look at qualitative aspects of accounting practices, as always, management's responsible for the selection and use of appropriate accounting practices and the financial statements themselves. We help where we can, and you also have a good consultant that's been helping quite a bit as well. This year, there was one change in accounting standards that had to do with how leases are getting accounted for, and this affected the Urban Renewal Agency mainly for the lease of the land over down by the food courts at the Fork, so that was a new standard that was implemented this year. And as far as the Urban Renewal Agency goes, all transactions were reported in the correct year, and so there weren't any prior period adjustments required. And so that was a positive piece. As for difficulties encountered during the audit, I think once we were able to get in and and do the field work. The audit went pretty smoothly, but there definitely some delays in the past of getting information from management, and really most of that management has changed hats at this point. There were a couple of adjustments that were posted that affected urban renewal during the year. We had some accounts payable that wasn't initially recorded, that was immaterial to the financial statements, but still something to watch out for. Retainage payable. Retainage is more like when you have a construction contract and you're holding back, say, 5% of each payment that still is a liability of the agency. It's pretty common for that one to get missed. So there was about 180,000 of retainage payable, I believe, related to the food court development down there that came in as an audit adjustment, and then another audit adjustment that was related to the purchase of the property there right in downtown Fairview there. For you had put $250,000 down the year before, and it was just reversing that and making sure we got it expensed and added to capital assets this year. So couple of larger adjustments that were in there, but for the I think for the amount of activity that goes through, those were just kind of the big ones that popped up, and everything else went pretty well. There's a second letter I'll talk to you about where we look at what we would consider a significant deficiency or material weakness, but a few items that were, I think, more suggestions and things to watch out for going forward. On page 2 of this letter is in our other audit findings or issues section. As I mentioned, we had accounts payable adjustments and just kind of watching some of those accounts payable. But the food court actually went into operations in June of 22. So that last month of the fiscal year that we're auditing, there was an adjustment to bring in some receivables for revenue that was earned in June. But I think the other piece that you're probably pretty well aware of is there were also some difficulties in working with the initial operator, and the city had gone back in and done a kind of a detailed audit going through, and that relationship was eventually canceled. And I don't want to say that was January or February of 23. So as far as this year's audit goes, we were just looking at 1 month and making sure that revenue was reported in the right period. And so a small adjustment for that, but one to be aware of as we hop into FY23 here in just a few more months. And another thing that you'll see in both the city and the urban renewals comments is that the urban renewal has internal tracking as to how much cash still belonged to urban renewal at the end of the year was about 3.4 million. But if you look at their bank account with the local government investment pool, there's about $8 million sitting in there. So internally it's being accounted for, but externally, that money's, as urban renewal is paying expenses, those monies need to get transferred over to the city's accounts, because all the checks get written out of the city's accounts. And so that's something that a process that needs to get developed internally to make sure that those balances can be transferred. At least, might not be exact dollar every day, but we want to get it a lot closer than about $5 million difference. So that's a suggestion going forward. And I know management's aware of that. They may have already implemented some of those pieces. There's a second letter in your packet that's just titled "To the Board and Management of Fairview Urban Renewal Agency." This letter is where we talk about some of the items that were, I think, a little more significant, where we're looking at either material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. And really, the first one that we're listing as material weakness is timing of the audit itself, and this will probably be in the next report as well, and maybe it'll fall off out of that next one. But we're just now issuing the 2022 audit, and for most of our other engagements, we're working on 2025 engagements right now. and getting ready to issue that. So we're still about 3 years behind, but as I mentioned in the beginning, we're going the right direction. The two material adjustments that I mentioned in the other letter for retainage and the deposits on the land purchase, are, since they're material by definition, they're kind of run into that there was a material weakness involved, that those didn't get caught. So those are going to be a one-time thing that going forward, other than keeping an eye out if we have projects looking for retainage, shouldn't be something that repeats. And that was the same thing on the Heart of Fairview land. So not a lot of items that are new on material weakness. And then just in significant deficiencies, for these years where, there was, kind of a big turnover or lack of management, it does raise the risk level that some of your internal control processes, weren't in place as they had been in the past. And with all those staffing changes, we're, continuing to recommend that, we communicate segregation of duties and getting those practices and processes back in place. And I know management's been working towards that goal already and has done a lot to put things back together. But again, we're kind of auditing in the past. And so, there's not a lot they could do retroactively to change what happened in 2022. Just a couple things I want to touch on the financial statements themselves. One is, the main reason that we're here is to give an opinion on the financial statements, and we're happy to report that we issued a clean audit opinion on the financial statements themselves. But that's usually going to be right towards the beginning of the report. Also, towards the beginning of the report is a section called Management's Discussion and Analysis. That's actually written by management and your consultants. And those give a pretty good snapshot as to, what were some of the changes during the year and what was, some of the qualitative reasons behind that as well. So if anything, as having a liftable, if you want a quick snapshot of what happened in that year, the management discussion analysis is a good piece to read on that. But the 2 pages I wanted to touch on really comes to the first numbered page, which is page 1 of the financial statements, called the Statement of Net Position, and it's probably about 8 pages in the book. So this will be the Statement of Net Position. And reason I want to point this one out is a lot of the times we'll get a board that's going to panic when they see this statement. At the end of the year, the Urban Renewal Agency had a deficit net position of about 3.3 million. And that's not unusual as you're looking at urban renewal agencies, because for the most part, the Urban Renewal Agency is going out and borrowing money to do improvements or projects that don't necessarily remain assets of the agency. So they're funding projects for other people usually. In this current year, the big projects was the leasehold improvements that are still on their books for the food court program. So I think if you look up towards the top of there, we got about 3.7 million, almost 3.8 million that was invested in the construction of the food courts down there. And then of course the land purchase for Heart of Fairview, and the land is actually, belongs to the city. So the Urban Renewal funded it, but the land is reported on the city side, and then other projects. And so I wouldn't be too alarmed at the negative 3.3 million. What's probably more important to look at for an urban renewal agency is where you're at fund balance wise, which if you go 2 pages back to page 3, you'll see that the ending fund balance was almost 2.2 million at the end of that year. And so that part was at least positive. And with that, in 22 is when Urban Renewal Agency issued about $6 million worth of bonds and spent a lot of money going out on the food court and the Heart of Fairview land purchases there. So the fund balance even with issuing $6 million worth of debt and bond premiums that year, fund balance only went up about 500,000. So at the end of the fiscal year, there was about 2.2 million that was left that's going to have to be able to go towards, any future projects or some of the bond debt service. And we're also going to continue to collect property taxes, and a big consideration with most urban renewals is making sure we have enough property taxes coming in to pay for the future debt service. So I think that was really the big things I wanted to touch on for the Urban Renewal Agency. I don't know if you probably haven't had maybe about a week to look at these. I don't know if you have any questions or things you wanted to look at any further, or
Any questions? Anything you want to look at further? No, I think we're good at this time. Thank you.
okay.
I know it's very late. I know we're really behind the eight ball on this, but I do appreciate your guys' work on this and getting us back closer. The fact that we were stationary for so long, the fact that we're even getting any traction is great. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, I had a question, not necessarily related to the audit, but maybe this could go to Nathan and not something we need to solve tonight. But on this related party transactions, his agency also paid the city $107,580 for administrative services and reimbursement of $51,850 for infrastructure projects. Maybe at a future meeting, we could just kind of queue up. So we have this point in time. We probably have a point in time in the other audit that preceded this one, but what do those numbers look like, say, for the year after this, right? And then the year after this? I'm just trying to understand that, the Urban Renewal Agency is, needs to reimburse the city for, call it staff time, but would like to maybe dig into it, or at least you could send something out that would just illustrate how much staff time has been reimbursed to the city, say for the prior period, and what the staff time is for the periods thereafter. Does that make sense?
I think so. I think if I hear you, what you're asking for is you wanted to know in these particular years how much staff was being, or how much the URA is paying towards staff time.
Right, because the reality is, if we didn't have an Urban Renewal Agency, we didn't do any of this, we'd have staff, we'd have our payroll and all of the expenses associated with it. I'm just trying to get a feel for how much staff time is really being consumed by the Urban Renewal Agency. Because I get a sense that even if we didn't have the Urban Renewal Agency, we'd probably still have the same amount of staff.
We'd have to reallocate funding a little bit, but.
So with that being said, just trying to understand the financial impacts between, because we do have an Urban Renewal Agency versus if we didn't. If we need to talk more, say, after this to try to, more pinpoint if there's some not quite understanding what the question is or the ask is, then let's do that.
No, that's perfectly fine. We'll work on that, but I wanted to point out, yes, yeah, we could even look at a work session if you like. I do want to point out once again, I know we talked about this, but the staff time was not being properly accounted for in the past, so.
No, totally understood, but we have a number here on this one, and we likely had a number on the one prior that we finished, and thank goodness we're as far along as we are, but trying to understand what that's.
No, absolutely. I just pointed it wasn't very reflective of what was actually happening because the city was subsidizing the ERA at that time. No longer doing that. Sure, if the council would like us to do that, or we'd be happy to put it on a work session, or if the council doesn't want to, then we can be with council our own, but.
I think as I recall, the general conversation was, even without urban renewal, a lot of these projects would still be worked on. We're just able to reimburse some of the funding for that. But it would be a good idea to visit that and kind of get a gauge from year to year what it looks like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Happy to. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, I think that's it. We're gonna have another portion of this at the regular, in our regular meeting, are we not?
Yes,
Yes. Towards, right at the beginning,
yes.
towards the beginning, yes. Okay, great. So we'll see you again in a little bit. And I believe that's it for urban renewal. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We will see you again in about 10 minutes, 7 o'clock. And unfortunately, the Mariners are down
Yeah, badly.
8-2.
Yeah, no joke, that's not good.
Yeah. They weren't, Toronto has, they're a good hitting team.
Toronto, so.
They're a good hitting team. We're going to keep them quiet forever.
Yeah. Be in there now.
I know, but I think we had a group in
they would.
tonight, and I think they disconnected things.
Yep, I'm just gonna be.
Hate that.
Yes?
Make sure that feeding something to the cities.
Well, thanks for being honest.
Actually, I don't know. It's not-
So we have to use our camera, which is not quite as nice.
That's okay.
Okay,
You will survive.
I'm good.
Okay, are we ready?
Yep.
All right. Call to order the city council session for Wednesday, October 15th, 2025. If I could please get a roll call.
Counselor Todd?
Present.
Counselor Copeland?
Here.
Counselor Owen?
Here.
Counselor Dennerlein?
Present.
Counselor Marker?
Here.
Counselor Weber? Here. And Mayor Kutrina?
Here. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with
Liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have any citizens wishing to comment on agenda items?
No.
Okay. Well, then next would be our fantastic toy drive from Multnomah County Sheriffs. Please come on down, say hi, tell us all about what's going on.
You can even sit down if you want.
You could sit, it's up to you. You want to stand, stand. If you want to sit, sit. It's all good.
That's cool with you guys.
That is fine, I get it.
So we have our amazing toy drive coming, and this year, we have a pizza party again for the winners of the wrapping paper, sheet paper and gift bags. I decided to do that this year because wrapping basketballs is not my specialty. Except downwards.
It's nobody's.
No.
I like bags, we're just gonna stop them and go.
Okay.
So that is green pies and our pizza place, which like I told Mayor, I've been up since 2 a.m. so I totally blamed everything right now, so I apologize. So they're gonna donate a pizza party to the winning. And then on the 29th of November, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, we host the actual toy drive, the Fill Your Cruiser toy drive. So once again, we have Kohl's participating, we have Fred Meyer's and Walmart. Target still won't participate with us because they don't believe in solicitation. So I don't have a store in your guys' city that will participate with me, so I apologize for that. So we'd love to have you guys come out. Deborah's got my email and I'll send another email as we get closer if you guys want to volunteer for a little bit of time to come out and spend at the Kohl's with us and collecting toys. Last year we served over 1,300 children and 300 families from our East County area. So it was an amazing toy drive, and we're hoping to serve more kids and more people that are in need this year. So,
Excellent.
Any questions?
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm going to be, actually, now that you mentioned the date, I know I will be in northern Washington that day. So unfortunately, I could not volunteer on the toy drive day, but.
Yep, well, and then distribution will be on the 13th of December, and
There we
that's
go.
where each person shopping gets a shopper to go with them and do all the shopping with them and then take them and get their toys wrapped. So we're also looking for dates, and I'll send those to every, as it gets a little bit closer. So we're always looking for, kids are more than welcome to come out and help us. Bilingual people are amazing. So we have a lot of families that we need translation for. So those are very good fun days to come out. So
The collection point for the gift bags and tissue papers here, right?
yeah, you just give them to the front office area. Usually there's a box or something. Do you want me to bring a box for you?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll bring a box the 1st of November. I'll just have it downstairs, and then you guys can drop everything off there.
All right.
Okay,
All right, thank you guys, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Go, B, get some rest. All right, next we have introduction of a new employee. Mr. George, if you'd like to go ahead and take over for that.
You can have her come up.
Thank you, Mayor. I will. I'm going to introduce Leslie Purcell, is with a Z, Leslie, and she's our newest accounting manager. As you may recall, Gretchen Grooms had left and went to another position, so we're excited to welcome her, and I'm going to turn over to Ann to say a few words.
I'm very excited. If you want to, you can come up.
Come to the hot seat.
Front and center. I'm excited to welcome Leslie to Fairview. She comes to us from Tyler Technologies. She's an implementation consultant with them for the past almost year. I met Leslie at the city of Florence, and she worked as my finance manager there for 5 years. She comes to the city with a lot of knowledge and experience and willingness to get things done, which we need here right now. And I'm really excited she's here.
Eric's excited.
Birds of a feather.
She started on Monday and she has already just jumped in. She hit the ground running, and hopefully this will help speed up the audits and everything else that we need to get caught up. So, do you want to add anything?
Sure. Hi, Mayor and Council. I'm sure I'll see you in the future, but I'm very excited to be here and join the team. I'm excited working with Ann again. We're quite a dynamic duo. When we get together, we can knock out some really good work. And I really love the team that I'm working with, people that are working in the finance department. They're all really great. Getting some stuff done, excited to get everybody caught up and help how I can. And I'm here to do the job that's given to me. Do you guys have any questions for me?
No, I think we're just thankful you're here.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, we would echo the applause that came from the back of the room.
That's my fan.
You know it.
Apparently.
No, just thank you for being here. Thank you for joining the team. You clearly come with high praise. So, and having experience with Tyler, that's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. I feel very well.
Good, I'm glad.
All right. I'm gonna let y'all get down to business. I'm gonna go back home.
Okay, you know what? Go for it.
See you tomorrow.
Okay, next we have the fiscal year 2021-2022 audit presentation. Dickie and Tripper, one more time. See, we put you guys up towards the front so you wouldn't have to stay too late.
I do appreciate that. And you know, my preference usually is to be there in person, and today happens to be the extended tax deadline, and I filed my final tax return about 10 minutes before the urban renewal meeting. So it would have been very difficult to come up tonight. But yes, we're here to present the results of the June 30th, 2022 fiscal year audit. As we discussed in the urban renewal meeting, you know, the city is behind on audits, but there is a good plan on getting things caught up, and having Leslie, which I'd like to welcome Leslie to the city, you know, come into place is going to be very helpful on getting some of those pieces going. That's one of the pieces you've been missing these last few years, and so I look forward to that. And then your team, which the two main people, but they have other people from Marina and Company, have been instrumental in getting these pieces done and things moving forward. So again, there are a couple letters that we're supposed to go through with you, and so we'll kind of go through the high points of those letters again. And the first one is titled to the Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, City of Fairview, Oregon. And this letter is kind of the wrap-up letter as to how, you know, what the overall results were. Just as I mentioned with urban renewal, we always try to stress that the city is ultimately responsible for picking their accounting policies, implementing the policies, the financial statements themselves, and they do sign a, you know, they do review and approve them and sign a management representation letter before every engagement is complete. And, you know, but we are there to, you know, try to help where we can, but we have to maintain our independence as the audit process goes through as well. And so the significant accounting policies for the city are really spelled out in the notes to the financial statements, and basically the very beginning in note 1 of the financial statements. So if you are curious as to what some of your accounting policies are, that's about a 15-page light read. You know, as described in the notes, there was one new accounting policy or accounting statement implemented this year. It had more of an effect on the city than it did on urban renewal, but this is leases, and it's both a change in the way that governmental accounting works for leases receivables and leases payable. So the big thing normally in a city with leases receivable is we've got some long-term leases for cell phone towers. And so as part of that lease valuation, you have to look to see what is our future cash flows coming from those and present value them back to the current day and amortize the lease asset or the lease receivable and the deferred inflows, you know, over the life of that lease. And so you see quite a bit of a jump in where you're looking at for lease assets that hadn't been there before. At the end of 2022, the lease asset or the lease receivables were about $840,000. So a pretty big asset that gets shown on the books that hasn't been there before. We recognize that's going to take a lot of future periods before that is collected, and so there's an offsetting, what they call a deferred outflow. I really look at it more like unearned revenue type, you know, but that's not the terminology that GASB likes to use. There's also the other side of it where you have lease assets, which the largest one has to do with the food court down there. And so that was about 120,000. So really the lease receivables are the big item as you're looking at the city. In the next fiscal year, FY23, there's another statement that follows up to this that's going to be implementing long-term subscription-based informational technology arrangements, so commonly referred to as SPIDAs. And you know, I don't think it's going to have as much of effect on the city as the lease implementation did. So that's one of the big changes this year, other than a lot of the activity that was going through urban renewal and getting the food court up. And I should explain that urban renewal has its own separate audit that we discussed just a little bit ago, but because it's the same board, same accounting processes, and same management, urban renewal gets treated as what's called a blended component unit of the city. So they get their own audit, but then they also get included in the city just as if it was another fund. So you'll see a little bit of duplication of information and duplication of a couple of the comments that we had in urban renewal as well. For the city, we did have one prior period adjustment that got posted. It really is more of a timing issue. We had some grant receivables that did not get collected within 60 days of the June 30th, 2021 fiscal year. And so that was about $41,000. In fact, it took quite a while to collect that one. I believe it's been collected at this point, but you know, it was still sitting out there at the end of fiscal year 22. And so that was an adjustment that was done to the previously issued financial statements. So we try to point those out. And there's a special note disclosure kind of describing that at the back of the notes as well. Other key thing to point out is not everything is black and white or a one or a two. There's going to be embedded estimates in the city's financial statements. The main estimates that are in there, capital assets is always a really large one. You know, I can't tell you exactly how long the building that you're sitting in is going to last. So the normal process is to set what a useful life would be and to, you know, a standard useful life and depreciate that over the useful life. And then we'll have additions and deletions, you know, as time progresses. So that one's always one of your largest estimates. Allowance for doubtful accounts, you know, as to all of your receivables, you know, what necessarily is going to be collected is not always what we've recorded. Big area of that, which is getting smaller, would be like court receivables. And so it takes an estimate as to, you know, how much of the receivables are out there that we ultimately collect. a few other areas where there's allowances in there, but I think that's your largest one. And since you've outsourced the court, that's going to continue to dwindle down. Other big ones out there have to do with your net pension liabilities, other post-employment benefits liabilities that actually are measured through an actuary that, one of them, you have your own separate actuary for the other post-employment benefits, which are kind of like health insurance. And then the state has Milliman that does the actuarial valuation for PERS. And so those end up being some big numbers, and we just want to point out that those are estimates that are based off of those actuarial valuations that are subject to change if there's different assumptions or different risks that come up the next year. Biggest one usually being if they change the discount rate, which I think about this period there were some changes in that discount. As to any significant difficulties we had during the audit. We did have a lot of delays on starting the audit, but those were kind of the past delays. And I think since we were able to come in and do the FY21 audit, it's really rolled pretty quickly into the fiscal year 2022 audit, and things were going much better. There was a lot of areas that got cleaned up, but as I've mentioned that there's some that you just can't go back in time and pretend they weren't existing at that point in time. As for other audit findings and issues, a couple of the suggestions that we've had in the past are still kind of there. I mean, there really wasn't a chance to change it. One of the things the city has been doing is transferring funds from the enterprise funds to the grant funds, and then having the grant funds do capital improvements. Kind of an ongoing suggestion is that really the enterprise funds are supposed to be self-supporting funds, and they should really just be paying for their improvements directly out of that fund rather than setting up a reserve in the grant fund and going forward. That's been that way for quite a few years, and it's getting accounted for and getting put in the right place at the end of the day. But there is some timing differences there that would change what the bottom line of some of these enterprise funds are at any point in time if grant fund is holding on to some reserves for future projects. So that's a suggestion, I think, going forward. Mentioned court already. There was with court, there's an old invoice that at this point has been paid, but the city's contracting with the city of Troutdale for court services, and I believe it was like July of 23. It was discovered that there were amounts due for 21 and 22, and then kind of a true up in fiscal year 2023. And so that's an old invoice that's been kind of sitting out there and has been cleaned up. But as the time of this audit, that was one that kind of slipped between the cracks. And we're just suggesting to maybe keep a tighter eye on invoices we'd be expecting to come in. And the people who were here at the time knew we were contracting with Troutdale, that there should have been an idea that there'd be some payments due, or monies coming from them, because they actually kick back some monies too. Depends on where the costs, the revenues and expenses are going. Another area that was, I think it was a finding last year, but kind of improved this year, is when we're looking at some of the building department activity and SDCs. We still have a building department module and financial reporting module that are two different pieces in the system, or two different modules, or versions in the system that don't talk to each other that well. I believe the city was in the process, if they haven't already, of trying to get those on the same version, so that it's not going to take a bunch of manual adjustments to make sure those come in. But that's a suggestion we have, is to try to get those on the same page. That way you'll be able to have more detail as to what's in the financial records versus the building department records, and those should agree and not have to have a bunch of manual adjustments to make those agree. And other smaller suggestion is again with truing up some of the monies that are right now sitting in a LGIP account for urban renewal that, a lot of those monies actually belong to the city. And as I mentioned before, that internally it's accounted for. Internally, we know how much is urban renewal's cash and we know how much is the city's cash, but just making sure we have a process to move it where it's in the right bank accounts. So as for just kind of the wrap-up letter, those were the main items I wanted to touch in there. But we do have a second letter, which is communications of, I think, the more significant items of, material weaknesses and significant deficiencies. Same with urban renewal. One of the first material weakness we've got reported in there is really timing of the audits. And so it's not necessarily, well, it's not a weakness that there's anything you can do about right now. But, with the audits being behind, it doesn't allow for a lot of your control processes to be, working properly, adequate time to review, some of the processes or perform overviews. Really, you can't go back in time and fix some of those. So this year and possibly next year, we'll still probably have that comment. But right now, I think you're doing everything you can to move things going forward. To me, bank reconciliations is one of the largest controls in the city and for your financial records. Bank reconciliations were quite a bit behind when we're looking at the fiscal year 21 and 22 and partway into the fiscal year 23 audits. And with those bank reconciliations being behind and really a lack of secondary review because they hadn't been prepared, that that heightens the risk of things slipping between the cracks or slipping out the door. Fortunately, we didn't come across areas where we had big concerns on the latter part of that. But that's one of the key controls. Marina and Company did a lot to clean up the June 30th, 2022 bank reconciliations. Still, as I think as we flow into 2023, a lot of those reconciliations are going to be late, but most of those, most of the outstanding items that had to be cleared out and corrected, I think got corrected for the June 30th of 2022 audit, and so those should look a lot better going forward. So I'm sure I'll still have a comment that they're late, but I think there's better processes as it's going forward. With most audits and city accounting systems, the fiscal year or the financial reporting is done mostly on a cash basis during the year, with I think the exception of you're looking at utility receivables and accounts payable, and so the year-end process is usually pretty manual and making sure that we have all the receivables and all the payables, and more of a cutoff thing of the financial reporting side. So there were still several adjustments that needed to be made, and larger adjustments to make sure that things were I think mainly reported in the right period. So there's adjustments, accounts receivables, deferred inflows, allowances, prepaid deposits, accounts payable, change payable, capital assets. So there's still adjustments in there, and as I mentioned, it's hard to go back in time. I'm expecting that there's going to be a lot less of those as we get into the FY23 engagement, but still some pieces kind of hanging on from past management, past practices that had kind of slipped through, and so that's an area that we're hoping there's some closer look at that going forward. Other item we're mentioning in here is that the city in the past hasn't been required to report to the electronic municipal market access, commonly called EMA, of a lot of your bond disclosures and such. But with the additional bonds issued by Urban Renewal, that became a requirement, and they did end up pulling your credit rating because of the audits being behind, and that looking at a compliance issue was one that we kind of considered a significant item that you guys should be aware of in there. And I'd be guessing you already all are aware of that, but that did get pulled. And I don't know that they're gonna reinstate it until we, get these audits caught up, or at least more audits coming into place. And, the legal would probably have a better idea of where things are sitting on that. And other pieces, just as we mentioned with urban renewal, that, with all the changes and staff vacancies over FY 22, 23, and even up until the point where we have Ann and Nathan and Leslie joining the team, that, there was kind of things kind of going back and forth. So a lot of those controls still, as went through 22 and probably part of 23, are going to be lacking, and it's going to be, extra risks and, extra looking to make sure that things are ending up where we expect them to be. Yeah, and so I think that was really the last area that we were looking at as being one of the larger items to make sure that you guys are aware of. Now, the audit itself, really the financial figures in the city's audit are pretty old. I would want to mention that on the long-term perspective, you did report positive change in net position for both governmental activities and business type activities. The fund balance in the general fund is one that is, most people look at as kind of how is the city doing? At the end of FY 22, your unassigned fund balance in the general fund was about 3.3 million. And usually a key measurement that we want to look at as you're looking at general fund balance is do we have at least 3 months worth of fund balance compared to expenditures for the general fund. Reason people look at that is one of your main funding sources is property taxes, and you don't usually get your big influx of property taxes until November of each year. And so if I'm looking at just the general fund itself, you had a fund balance of about 3.3 million, and expenditures for FY 22 for just the general fund was about 5.7 million. So really that's, that funds over a half a year of expenditures at that point in time. In FY 22, you did have, which was helpful, you did have the first round of the ARPA funds that came in. And, if we're looking at intergovernmental revenues, we had about, as a city, the governmental funds as a whole, about 2.6 million, but of intergovernmental revenues. But, a big chunk of that was the ARPA funds that came through from some of the COVID monies. And then you got a second round of that in FY 23. And so with those federal funds, there were also special requirements that the city would have to either get a single audit or a special attestation engagement to verify, how you spent those funds, if they're spent on allowable activities and allowable costs. And so we did do a separate engagement for both FY 22 and FY 23, which is completed. It's not part of your packet here, and I think we have to send actually the final reports over here, along with some other follow-up documentation for the FY 22 audits, so Marine and Company can work on FY 23 that will get sent over tomorrow now that the tax deadline has passed. But we did do the special compliance audit for the ARPA funds for both years, and both of those turned out with no issues. ARPA funds for the city, has we're treating it as revenue replacement. And so there's a real wide range of, what's allowed in those requirements, that basically they're restricted to government services, which is, all but a few carved out items that you're not allowed to spend them on. So both of those engagements went well and are just about ready to be submitted. And that should be the end of the federal fund reporting requirements for a little while for the city. As part of the financial statements, there are the notes to the financial statements. I did see that Mayor has read through those as he brought up some of the related party disclosures in our last meeting. That is really one of the key disclosures in the financial statements. There's also at least 20 pages of PERS disclosures and other post-employment benefit disclosures that could help you nap a little bit. But some of the commitments and contingencies in there are going to be key disclosures, and really looking at what your long-term debt is looking like. The city itself doesn't have a lot of long-term debt, but we've issued a lot of urban renewal bonds the last few years. Really, our largest debt out there is we still have the bonds for the public works facilities, and that's about 2.8 million at the end of this year. And on urban renewal, we had, between the 2019 bonds and the 2022 bonds, probably close to about 9 million at the end of that fiscal year. And those urban renewal bonds, we're looking at, future debt service requirements between the two of them of, 600 and, averaging about 640, 650,000 a year. So it's making sure we have enough property tax revenues coming in to fund those. In FY22, urban renewal property taxes were, I believe, about 500,000, but and growing. So, as we look forward to FY23, I think that amount is, would have grown, but it will limit, how much new debt you can issue based on how much can you pay back on the property taxes. So just some key disclosures that, I thought might be important to keep an eye out as you're looking towards the future. And I don't know if you have any other areas that you wanted to talk about further or questions, but I think that was the main items I wanted to point out to you.
Any areas that we have questions on or wanted to look at closer?
I just had I don't know that it was really to do with the audit, but maybe this is for you, Nathan. The S&P global rating that's been withdrawn, do you have like a target date as to when you would forecast, project that we could get that back?
Just off the top of my head, I would forecast it be after we finish these back audits.
I'm sorry, when?
After we finish these back audits, which is going to be about 2 years from now.
So we'd say by the end of 27?
Thinking 28. What do you think, Ann? See 20.
I would think based on doing 2 audits a year and getting everything caught up, the fiscal year 27, 28, maybe we'll be caught up. Step in, Rob, if you have any other
I think
better
that's
ideas.
a fair projection. So I think we'll, we should have FY23 and FY24. The plan is to have those done next year, so that'll be 26, and then we'll be working on FY25 at the beginning, hopefully in January of the following year, and hopefully rolling FY26 back to just a standard date. So really, I think once you have FY25 done, and they may even let you go if you have FY24, but FY25. I think once you have that one done, that, we're looking, probably in 2027 to get that one done. Just the way things are going. 2027 calendar year.
I will say that it's a possibility. One thing we're looking at, the ERA might be able to go sooner. We're still digging into that, just depending on what they have, but not super soon. Not like this year or anything, but maybe a year, at least a year earlier. I will tell you, it's been a struggle. They're one of the banks that when I first got here, they have one of our debt they carry, and they were pretty frustrated, but fortunately we were able to talk to them. And not that it matters a lot, but it's kind of a fun connection. They happen to be headquartered in the city I used to work in, and I was at their first grand opening. But anyway, they at least could associate that as a real person. Yes. So we are, once we get through these audits, it's gonna be a while, but we'll reapply and hopefully get our ratings back. It won't be very good ratings, but we'll start. So it's just unfortunately nobody in this room's fault. We're just trying to put it together.
Okay, anything else? All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, next is, we've got some proclamations. First, it will be for First Responders Day. Whereas first responders, both career and volunteer, including firefighters, police officers, emergency medical technicians, 911 operators, paramedics, and other organizations in the public safety sector protect the citizens of Fairview during emergencies and times of crisis. And whereas first responders are highly trained professionals equipped with specialized education and skill sets that enable them to effectively address situations of emergency and protect the public, protect property and save lives. And whereas first responders contribute to the health and vibrancy of our communities, ensuring the safety and well-being of individuals and their families. And whereas the city of Fairview recognizes the bravery and dedication of our first responders with deepest gratitude, appreciation for the invaluable service that they provide to our communities, and with the continued admiration of their incredible selflessness and commitment to our public safety. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the city of Fairview recognizes and honors October 28th as National First Responders Day. Proclaim this day on 15th of October 2025. Clearly, recent events within the city of Fairview and even some current events have highlighted our appreciation for first responders. So I think we can all take a deep breath knowing that we have been well taken care of. So I truly appreciate that. This one is for National American Indian Heritage Month, whereas the city of Fairview recognizes the indigenous people of the lands that would later become known as Fairview and Multnomah County have lived in these lands since time immemorial. And whereas Fairview, Blue Lake, within it, were home to the Nashkochi village members of the Chinook tribe. On the west end of Blue Lake Park, which hosted several longhouses, then visited by William Clark, co-leader of the Corps Discovery Expedition in 1806. And whereas many descendants of indigenous people who historically lived in this area are today members of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, Siletz, and Yakima nations, which are dedicated to preserving culture, creating prosperity, and building a better future for their members. And whereas we recognize and celebrate the fact that the tribal culture is rich and thriving, successfully connecting the past with future generations through Lifeways education, increasing knowledge, and the use of native language and renewed connection to ancestral homelands. And whereas we celebrate indigenous cultures and voices and strive together to build a future of shared hope, prosperity, and promise for all. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the city of Fairview recognizes and honors November 2025 as National American Indian Heritage Month. And we invite all residents, businesses, and city employees to join us in celebrating the rich and diverse cultures of the indigenous people, to raise awareness about our shared and troubled history, and the continuing to work to repair the past, to acknowledge the important ongoing contributions of Native Americans make in our community and across the nation. Proclaimed on this date, 15th of October 2025. Let's see, we have, next item is review and adopt the minutes for September 17th, 2025. Are there any corrections or additions that need to be made? No, if not,
Would make a motion to adopt the minutes of September 17th, 2025.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes. City manager and director reports. I think we have two from MCSO that need to come down and make their way up here and at least make an introduction and explain to the people watching, to the ones of people watching, what is transpiring right here.
Explain to the council.
Right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Would you like me to make the introduction first, or give you these illustrious seats?
Let's go to the stats first, and then we can go into introduction.
This month, for the month of September, we had 441 total calls for service, 250 of which were dispatched, 191 self-initiated with 87 traffic stops. We have a directed mission within the city of Fairview. I believe it's going to be focused on driving offenses, aggressive driving and distracted driving. The exact date is going to be sometime within the next week, and we'll have those statistics for you either by email or at the next council report. We also had the PSAC shred event on this past Saturday, which was successful. Councilor Hubbard was out there. I stopped by, but our hardworking PSAC members were out there working. And our next PSAC meeting is on Monday. That's all the stats that I have prepared for you tonight. Happy to answer any questions and make an introduction.
Do we have any questions? All right, introduction.
All right, as you likely heard, I will be moving. I did move over to the patrol division on Monday. I just wanted to take a minute to thank council and Mr. Mayor for, it's been a great 2 years, and genuinely say that it's been a great honor, and I will miss working with you. The good news is that as the patrol captain, go to everything. So along with the other contracted cities, I will certainly come back for some of the key events throughout the year. And with that, this is Captain Ryan Hackala. He is, I'll let him do his own intro, but I'll soft in with, he's a DPSST 288 classmate of mine 20 years ago, went to the basic academy together, and so he is a friend as well as a replacement. But with that, I'll let him introduce himself.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Again, my name is Ryan Hackala. I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 20 years. Pretty much done everything within the law enforcement division during my tenure here. Most recently, I'm coming from supervising our civil and river patrol units. Prior to that, I did our training division. I did serve as the Wood Village Chief of Police from 2018 to about 2020, before I was reassigned west during those events in 2020. And then I returned to the Wood Village Chief of Police, I believe it was 2022 for another year. So I was 3 years total as the Wood Village Chief of Police. I'm excited for this opportunity. I did 5 years in detectives when I was a deputy, so it's kind of like full circle, get to come around and kind of get back into the swing of things. I have been offline for a few years, so I'm really looking forward to kind of being back out in the community and being relevant, kind of getting to know everybody and all that kind of stuff. So I got big shoes to fill. Lance has done a stellar job. He's done a good job of kind of passing some things off me, but I am a little nervous. He's a lot smarter than me, so I got some big shoes I got to fill. But I'm looking forward to it. I am familiar with a couple of people here and used to do the Hope team, so I know Councilor Marker. I don't know if you remember me or not, but anyways, it's a great opportunity. I'm excited. I'm really happy to be here. So I'm looking forward to what's going on.
Even though we went to the same academy, he is older than me, so. I would like to say too, I would be remiss to not say publicly that bringing on Nathan George as the city manager has been the exact shot in the arm from an outsider / insider as your chief. We all knew that we needed a strong city manager, and it was a long road to get there, but sincerely, I think the world of Nathan, he built a great team around himself, promoted the right people, hired in the right people, and I watched the city go through a variety of leadership changes and temporary changes, and really happy to see where the city is today and where it's going compared to where it was when I started 2 years ago.
Okay, well, we've appreciated having you, truly, getting a chance to speak with you at a number of events, just even, just personally. I've enjoyed seeing you around, and I wish you nothing but the best. It's good to see careers advance, and it's good to see some fresh blood come in. So we appreciate you as well. It's going to be fun. I hope you enjoyed her. Anybody else?
Based on our last conversation, age is nothing but a number.
No. My knees would say otherwise, but okay.
Council work they did about the time when I got here, because they got they had a seasoned chief care, and then they got the young replacement.
Kid.
Yes.
I'll go back to the old replacement.
I wasn't gonna say it.
Thank you very much. Is there anything else, sir?
I just want to say it's been a pleasure working with you on PSAC plans, and I wish you all the best. And I'm very confident that this will be a great transition. So thanks for all that you do.
Mayor, may I say something?
Yes, please.
I just want to thank Captain Chief Hensworth for all the work he's done. I want you to know internally, on the inside, all the departments have been really enjoying working with them, and they're very excited. We're very excited for our new replacement, but I want to say thank you. You've been great, been a real addition to our leadership team, and been really wonderful to work with, and really goes out and gets everything done he can. So thank you. Thank you, Chief.
So you're gonna be in like a patrol unit now?
Yes.
Yes, me.
So would that mean if
My hips.
if I were to get pulled over?
Yes, stack of business cards.
Thank you, that's what I was looking for.
Because I'm a little offended here that you're leaving us. I thought we had a thing here, but you've got to go.
Okay, I'm very happy, and I serve with the pleasure of the sheriff, but they don't often ask.
Yeah, well, good
I'm
luck.
happy to serve in any capacity, but I definitely love my time here, and
We enjoyed having you.
Yes.
You've been fantastic, been
100%.
very responsive, and all the accolades, so obviously you did a good job, so congratulations and good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
thank you very much.
And nice meeting you.
Yes.
Yeah, likewise. See what I mean? I got big shoes to fill now. Thank you.
I'm sure you'll do just great. All right, we have, next on the reports, Sarah Sullivan, truck parking, general industrial district, because, people wonder, what's it like being on council? What kind of stuff do you do? Well, truck parking, that's what we do.
It's truck parking in the GI,
It is.
not in the village.
No, it's general industrial, this is true.
All right, so, good evening, counselors. I wanted to take a brief opportunity to get some direction from you on a land use issue that has come up recently. We also discussed this with the planning commission at their last meeting and let them know that we'd be then talking about it with city council. So in the general industrial zone, which is generally located in Fairview, east of 223rd and north of I-84, we have a permitted use. We have a list of permitted uses. What is not explicitly listed is a parking lot with no development, no buildings, no warehouse and distribution, just being used for leasing out spaces for truck parking. We've had 3 requests recently, one actually a request to complete a land use compatibility statement for a stormwater permit where we have to find that the way a property is currently being used complies with our zoning regulations, and the other inquiries from people who own land and would like to use the land just to store tractor trailers. And we noted that our zoning code says that we can make a similar use determination, finding that something that's not explicitly listed is similar to something that is permitted and explicitly listed in the code. In this case, warehouse and distribution is listed. However, it is commonly understood that that does include some kind of a warehouse building with associated truck parking. We took a look at some of our neighboring cities and what they allow in their industrial districts. There is an industrial zone in Trebedale where they do allow just surface parking only, no buildings. In Wood Village and in Gresham, truck parking is specifically called out as an accessory use to another use on the property. So typically it would be something with a building involved where there are employees coming and going. When we brought this to the planning commission, we were kind of saying that it would be helpful to clarify in our code, so make an amendment to the code to explicitly list whether it is permitted or not through a public process, because this is coming up quite often, and I think there is a demand for using property in this way. The planning commission had kind of mixed reactions. On the one hand, some people felt that it would be better than just a vacant grass field. Others felt that it would not be the best, highest and best use for property in terms of generating property tax improvements. And I guess I would just say that a couple other things. Looking at our comprehensive plan, there are a number of policies in our economic development chapter. Policy number 6 says the city shall emphasize the enhancement of the tax base in its economic development activities in order to better provide adequate services to its population. And in terms of thinking about use of land in employment or industrial areas, that will be the most relevant policy in our comprehensive plan. And we're trying to kind of get this resolved because there is a property that's waiting for its DEQ process to get wrapped up. It happens to be a property in the industrial district, which kind of changed its use many years ago without getting a business license. It didn't trigger staff, I think, years ago to take a look at how that property was being used. And, it's just coming up now, and this sometimes happens when the city's asked to sign off on the use of a property for other purposes and other agencies. So I'm I guess, looking for some direction from the city council, any feedback on allowing a truck parking lot as a standalone use in our general industrial zone, and if we should move forward as staff and work on a code amendment, which would then go through a public hearing process with the planning commission. They'd make a recommendation to the city council, and you would make your final decision at that point. I'm happy to answer any questions to the best of my ability.
Councilor.
So would this be, just trying to look at a map of the city. So is this primarily kind of in the Townsend Farm area?
Yes. Two of the inquiries were in the Townsend Farm area. The other one, I think, is taken off the table because it turned out it was also in a floodplain, and it would not make sense.
Yeah, I tell you, the thing that I have a concern about, and I'm just really even recognize it more each and every day, I just happen to have a residence down in that area, is, to me, it would be like, how much more traffic are we potentially gonna, add to that area? Because I think about 223rd today, I come out onto my street to make a turn, and it is incredible during certain times of the day with the FedEx and the Amazon vehicles and everything that are rolling up and down that road. So, if we're talking about adding a significant number of potential truck volume to an area, and they don't have any business there, meaning there's not a physical building that they're servicing, it could be very concerning, to me anyway, just as I go up and down that road quite a bit. So I think we'd need to really understand, what the intent is. Is the intent that it's going to become is it a storage facility, or is it something that, they advertise? So I think there's like a business over there off of Sandy Boulevard now, and I'm not sure exactly what their business is, but they definitely seem to have a lot of trucks coming in and out. Originally, I thought it was kind of more of a hey, park your truck here. But it is a park your truck there, I think, but these people are somewhat mobile. And, you know, you got a big truck,
Loading going on.
you just can't park it anywhere. I mean, it'd be tough to find a place to park. But there is a physical business there that I think services trucks and provides other services to them. So, you know, I'll stop rambling, but just a heightened level of concern as it relates to putting more truck traffic down in that area for no other purpose than to just park a truck and not really creating any really value for the city.
Councilor Denley.
So basically talking about the northwest corner of Townsend Park, right on 223rd. It's about the only thing that's still empty.
That is one of the properties. They were originally approved to develop that lot with a warehouse building.
Yeah, spec warehouse.
And yes.
So I drive by 3 of these that have gone up in the last 2 years, 3 years, all in Troutdale. And it's something that was pointed out to me 20 years ago. The reason that we have all of this on this side is because this is where all the truck drivers live. And there's a whole, like, economically, it sucks, but I'm not sure what else to do about it. Typically, these don't actually have as much traffic as you think. They just kind of put the trailers in there and leave them. And when they need them, they go get them. There's 2 of them on Marine Drive, and then there's another one that's actually on the Troutdale Airport. They took over the old tanker base and they're parking them there as well. So I don't know how much traffic that would be generated. I would be interested, though, to go back to see the county's study on a traffic light at 223rd and Townsend Way, because there was a trigger point there that we kept kind of dancing around. And, you know, it was like, okay, well, when we hit this tipping point of traffic that's going through that intersection, we're gonna do something. And I don't know if we're there yet, but I have a feeling that we're pretty darn close, and this might tip that to where we're gonna put a light in there because someday a truck is gonna kill somebody there.
I can respond a little bit to that note. So the property at the northwest corner of 223rd and northeast corner, sorry, of 223rd and Townsend Way along the railroad tracks. When that property owner came in and received land use approval to develop a warehouse building and a large parking lot, they did do a traffic study. It did show pretty low volumes of traffic. So that was not going to trigger a light going in at the intersection of Townsend Way and 223rd. One of the issues around the triggers for that is that it looks at AM and PM peak hour traffic. And these uses are typically not contributing to volumes at peak hours in the morning and in the afternoon, evening.
But they are raising overall trip traffic.
They are, right. So, but there could be, I mean, it could be a different type of use entirely with a building that ends up having a lot more employees or warehouse and distribution that generates more traffic. But you're right, there at some point that could be triggered.
Okay, Councilor Marker.
I know of 2 accidents down in that area, and probably the chief can probably back me up on this. There was one jackknife semi-truck on that road, and there was another one where the semi-truck actually went off the road, and the road was actually closed for quite a number of hours for them to turn around and get it out of there. So in my view, it's not a good place. I'm concerned about, number 1, the cleanliness of the area. 2, there's already a bunch of people with, you've got the place that's right across the street from Walmart that moves brand new cars in and out. And plus you got Townsend Farms there, okay? And then on top of that, in the business park that's right behind that, you've got several other warehouses and buildings that is not very far from Amazon that a lot of trucks go in and out of there. So I think it's gonna be too congested, in my opinion.
Council Todd?
So I was on planning commission with Commissioner Dennerlein when there was the discussion and approval of the warehouse with trucks going in and out there. So is this now just, we're gonna do a parking lot instead of that building that was proposed, or?
No, that got built.
That got built? Okay.
Well, let's see, so 223rd and Townsend Way, so that was approved but not built, but then there's the one on Sandy Boulevard that we were speaking of at 230th and Sandy, where they have a building and they're servicing vehicles. And yes, that's been completed and they're working on an expansion.
Okay, because I remember the discussion at that planning commission where, yeah, each individual facility going in wasn't triggering the traffic light because the load wasn't enough. But there was a discussion at planning commission about asking for the trucks to be going in and out from the east and not on 223rd. So use the Wood Village exit and come in and out using those roads there, which I think in general with those things, if we can encourage that and take a load off 223rd. But there is also the possible improvements and things going on with 223rd coming up. So the county may look at it again, but.
I mean, you can encourage, but generally speaking, human nature says that if they're coming from the west, they're gonna take the westernmost exit.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing about this that I will say in favor is, you know, you've got a little bit of traffic in the city and maybe they stop and have a slice of pizza or grab a burrito or whatever when they're dropping off a trailer or picking a trailer up. And, you know, potentially the property owner is making some money off of it, paying some income taxes off of it. And who knows, the county goes in and says, oh, you put pavement down and they up the tax rate or the property value. And we get a little money there. I don't know if if the traffic is so bad that we would notice it. Like I said, I know of 3 of these, and Troutdale has at least 3 that I know of. And I don't see them with a ton of traffic. It usually is they're stashing trailers there. And when somebody calls up and says, I need a trailer, here you go. McKinley on one of them, Pacific Trailer on another one, and I forget the one that's actually on the airport. But it's not nearly the traffic that you get on Sundial Road with FedEx and Amazon. That's nuts. So that would be the positive side of it is yeah, we might run into some traffic, but we also might have businesses make a few dollars because drivers eat.
I do think that the other piece of it too is we're looking to develop these areas. I mean, at the end of the day, we really need some property tax revenue to kind of fund this machine that we have here. And creating a parking lot, I just can't imagine is going to provide the results that we're looking for.
No, but it's something
to do.
It's something better than nothing.
Well, maybe. I'm just not sure that there's a lot of benefit to that.
And I did look at a couple of examples just in terms of improved properties around 5 acres in size that were just a parking lot versus had a building. So, you might be looking at $1,000 or some kind of $1 million in improvements on a 5 acre parking lot versus, $8 to $20,000 of improvements. 8 million to 20 million in improved value on something with a building. So, you might be looking at 100,000 more, tax revenue on something with a building compared to just a parking lot.
Well, that and just creating jobs. I mean, I know that, the people that are driving those trucks are a job, but I doubt that they're probably not within the confines of the city of Fairview. There may be a few. So I don't know, to me, it just kind of seems like we're giving something up that it just seems like there's a lot better use for it to me.
I don't know if that gives you clarity or not.
Not necessarily.
Come back and talk to us later.
City Manager, city light go on.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you, Sarah. You know, she and I talked about this, and I wanted her to have just a report to get some feedback from council. I mean, there are different strategies, there are things to look at. I mean, one thing is that parking lot, maybe a parking lot now, it's not going to probably always be a parking lot. But the idea was to try to see if it's a good fit, something that might be a step, something else. We just want to explore the ideas and take a look at. So we appreciate your feedback. So.
I'll let us get on with the rest of our director's reports. And it
Yes.
sounds like.
That felt more like city business rather than a director report. So I was like, yes, I know we need to get back to that, but I kind of wanted to knock that out.
Okay, so it sounds like we'll come back for further discussion.
Yeah. Director reports, what do we want to?
Can we, Sarah's okay, we start with you.
You're here.
Right there.
Why not?
Thank you.
So, let's see, so I will make this, pretty brief. Let's see, in permitting, things have been, on the slow side, but we do have a couple of new, applications are coming in soon, for Depot Street and Amazon accessory building. Those are kind of in the queue now. Our permit tech's doing a fantastic job, so we're very excited about that. And with code enforcement, we are continuing to work on vegetation, but I think that's kind of starting to taper off for the season. We do have a court case that's been scheduled for November for the property that's at the northwest corner of Fairview Parkway in Halsey. It's been an issue on and off for years, that large vacant parcel.
Thank you.
So yes, we're proceeding with that. But otherwise, as we continue to receive a lot of code complaints, compliance is going really well, including the door hanger program. And we've been, I think as I've noted in some of the Friday emails, we've been testing out doing some graffiti removal to try and be more responsive and more efficient on that. And are working to create a program where a private property owner could check out a kit from us if their property has been tagged, so they can quickly remove it as well. And I think I will leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. As somebody who walks that northwest corner of Parkway and Halsey multiple times a week, thank you. It gets to the point where the sidewalk is almost not seen.
Yes.
At times.
Sarah, before you take up, do you have a feeling when Multnomah County is going to take care of that new no parking signage and the fire hydrant adjacent to the Meadowlark?
I don't have a schedule from them on that yet, but they did make sort of a final, I had gotten a verbal communication, and they did make a final sort of analysis and determination on how they're gonna address that, not for that isolated case, but kind of thinking about all instances where there is a hydrant. So yeah, I should be able to give an update on that soon, just waiting to find out when it's scheduled.
I mean, this is just an example of, when we approve and create a new, multifamily housing situation, there's little pockets of things that as much work as goes into it, a few little details here and there get overlooked and, get pushed on to something else. But I do appreciate your efforts on that, because 223, there's no parking, and of course, there's always somebody that figures it out. And then you had sent me a message on that box truck that's in the passenger car parking only on Sandy Boulevard. So that's helpful too. I think it's just good for everybody, and then the residents that have lived there forever, so that they don't start experiencing that just because of that new development. So,
yes,
and
exactly.
that really goes a long way, I think, in keeping things good for folks.
Yeah.
Here in Fairview.
And we'll be talking with the Sandy corridor. We have as part of the Safer Sandy outreach, we're doing some outreach this week. Actually, Smith Memorial Church, I believe, this evening. Tomorrow night at the Fairview Terrace HOA meeting. Friday will be at Quail Hollow. We've gotten over 400 responses to the survey that's out on that project right now, and we'll be, continuing.
That's impressive.
Getting feedback for that project.
Great.
All right, thank you. Hyro? You're just sitting there. He was looking too comfortable.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I will also keep it brief. We are in the midst of our fall programming. So far, we served 272 registered participants. We still have 14 programs left for the fall term, so that number should increase. Earlier this month, we did our 4th annual costume dash. We have 76 registered participants with a mix of families, individuals, adults. A lot of them in costumes, so it was great to see. Last week, the Recreation Department went to an annual Oregon Recreation Parks Conference. It was a great experience, first time for Annie and Nancy to attend. So some great opportunities for some professional development opportunities for them to explore as well. Last week, we also attended the Faith in Blue event, and we have plenty of other community events that we'll be attending this later this month. In partnership with, in collaboration through their sponsorship package and TriMed, we will be doing an open house to discuss their service reduction for the upcoming fiscal year. So the focus group the open house will happen tomorrow from 5 to 7 here. It will be focused for our Spanish residents, but all are welcome. Any questions?
When you say service reductions, is that something that's going to impact the citizens of Fairview? I mean, just within our city limits?
Yeah, so the two service lines that they're looking at is 77 that runs on Halsey, and then the 81 that runs on 257. And so as of right now, I believe starting November 1st, the 77 route after 9 p.m. will decrease to an hourly service and not a frequently service as it is prior to that. So every 15 minutes the bus is coming. So for right now, those are the big budget, the reductions, but I think there'll be more to come, kind of depending on how the transportation budget gets approved and implemented through the legislature.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. John, how's it going?
He's going to tell us that there's a backhoe parked over.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilors, your Public Works update. Exciting news for Well 10. They mobilized a excavator out there.
You didn't hear me when you were walking out.
The right-of-way permit from Wilson County was issued, and the city issued the erosion and sediment control. You will have boots on the ground later this week.
Nice.
So that's exciting. And also to the CDBG sidewalk infill project. Pavement has been placed, put in, and concrete work is done. So right now, they're just wrapping things up that should be done. With the complete project by the end of next week, they're just doing some grading behind the sidewalk and some minor stuff. But that's good news there. It's been really consuming a lot of our staff's time doing the inspections and being on site during the placement of the concrete and asphalt. Our facilities manager has been busy. The Crestwood shop finally received the exterior paint that has been discussed at what I hear 5+ years for that. So that project is complete. We're also have a electrical contractor under contract. They're waiting for supplies to do the interior LED project for Crestwood also. So that is a must. We need to do that. So again, just having a facilities manager on board is just instrumental in getting some of these projects completed. Also some smaller projects here at City Hall, some door projects that have, some of the doors weren't functioning properly, some of the door locks weren't functioning properly also, so those got repaired. Street sweeping was completed last week, and street sweeping is scheduled again for November 17th. We try and tighten up the window in the fall time because of the leaves. So we did coordinate with 12 Mile and Multnomah County with their sweeping routes to coordinate with, I should say, to eliminate any conflicts with garbage cans and street sweeping. So this was the first, last week was the first time with the new routes. So that was good. See, Multnomah County will be doing some traffic signal work at, I believe it's Fairview Parkway and Halsey. They're going to do some night work November 6th through the 10th. City manager did approve a variance to our construction work window to accommodate the night work just because of traffic. It just would be a nightmare with traffic, so they're going to be doing that. So that'll be November 6th through the 10th, and then in our weekly, the city manager's weekly update, he will also send a reminder out for that also. And the Public Works Operations Manager and I will be attending several winter operations meetings, one with Multnomah County, one with ODOT, and one with City of Portland and Tri-Rad. So we're starting to ramp that up and getting prepared for winter operations. With that, any questions?
Councilor Todd?
I know that Sarah mentioned that the tree trimming stuff is sort of winding down with a couple of things, but at Market and Park right over here, if you're coming northbound, the tree that's there obscures the stop sign almost completely. And so there's been a bunch of near misses there, because if people aren't familiar with the street, they blow through it. And so if that could get trimmed, that would be great. That's all I got.
As opposed to the stop sign on Park and Multnomah where they just blow through it even though it's right there.
Well, that's been
that way forever. But the last time that our police force did anything, it was discovered that the vast majority of those were people who lived in the village. So
yes.
Just to leave that one light. A couple of things. What is the plan for the Crestwood shop? We're putting all this effort and work into it. We're going to start using it again, storing stuff there.
We do.
We already do.
We use it daily.
Okay.
Yeah.
The last time that I was up there was like, yeah, we're not using this anymore because we have our new one over here.
Well, we use it daily.
Okay.
So we keep our sander and plows there, some of the mowing equipment.
Are we going to follow ODOT and name our plow? And the other thing is I know that there was a schedule for sidewalk monitoring and compliance that rotates throughout the various parts of the city. And I actually went for a walk the other night in the village and discovered that we have a lot of sidewalks that are not exactly kosher. In fact, my wife tripped. So where are we at on that schedule? Are we still following it? Is there plans to do it?
So I can tell you, right now it's complaint driven due to the fact that our engineering tech is our inspector, and he has been tied up with the CDBG projects.
Sure.
So over the last 3-4 months.
So are we going to go back to a scheduled?
Yes, that's one of the kind of long-term projected projects into incorporating that into his daily work.
Okay.
Councilor Copeland?
Are the sidewalks on Halsey County responsibility?
They're county within city limits.
Okay.
So I can tell you what the county would say. The county would say they would defer back to what the city code says. And the city code says adjacent property owner is responsible for sidewalks.
Yep. Oh, okay. So in the example of, let's see, just east of 201st, Halsey on the south side, or the tennis courts for the middle school.
The school district.
So that would be the school district's responsibility, the sidewalk there?
The adjacent property.
It would be your responsibility.
Yes. That's where we're going with it.
Ignore everything.
Nice try.
Hey, I was just curious more than anything. There's a tree that has the sidewalk. I mean, if I had a BMX bike, I'd be all over it, but it's pretty gnarly.
Councilor Long?
I would say if you had a BMX bike and you were younger, you might be older.
I just sold them. Something tells me it wouldn't be that hard to get you one, and we'd all be there watching.
I'm in.
Filming.
And filming.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the whole sidewalk deal, that wasn't what I really had to ask about, but even in my neighborhood, I do the little walk through, and we just did that not that long ago, but these things are already popping again, and how we got ourselves into the last problem was we kept having reasons why we weren't, going out and doing the evaluations, but I'm telling you, these things are popping, and the sooner we get on it and inform homeowners that, hey, you are responsible, we did our deal, and you're responsible, I think that we're gonna be far better off, but there are a few, I don't know that I need a BMX bike to do it, but definitely they are a hazard for people that are trying to use the sidewalk, but.
And we kind of shot ourselves in the foot in that the last go-round, we paid for it.
Yep.
In the village, we paid for it. So all of these property owners are going to get a little tag saying, you got to fix this. And they're going to go, well, you guys paid for it last time. And then the time before that, we had an incentive program where we were paying $5 a square foot or something. And so they've, in the last decade, they've never actually had to take care of this by themselves. But
It's still going to come as a shock.
They've had a good ride.
Yes, they've had a good ride.
Enjoy what you've had. Thank you very much.
One more thing, just, I read in the city manager's report, we've got a local business that has a water leak, and I think the estimated amount of lost water, which is absolutely mind-numbing to me. I don't remember whether it was 1.3 million gallons, 1.7, but anytime you get over 1 million, it seems like a lot to me. So I'm just wondering, did you have an update as to when that's going to be repaired?
Yeah, so we did send a certified letter and regular letter and email to the owner.
Okay.
And I believe it was the 20th?
20th is the deadline, which is the second deadline. We already gave them a deadline, which they didn't meet, so we gave them one more.
So we kind of went above and beyond, kind of gave them a few scenarios of how to repair, or kind of an approach to repair.
Sure.
Work with their plumber. It is a commercial building, they're gonna have to get a plumber in there. They need to identify where the leak is. Ultimately, it's on the private side, it ultimately is their responsibility.
So what do you recall, when is the next, I guess, timeline where the city needs to?
Monday the 20th.
Monday, the 20th?
Of October.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And they are aware of that. Again, it's email, regular mail, and certified mail.
Got it.
And at that point,
It was clear what that deadline is.
Okay.
If I may, just to give a quick summary, so we reported this to them back in January. They went around a very strange cycle, which we've already discussed internally to make it a lot better in the future, but nevertheless, we did give them, actually, finance department sent a letter saying you have 10 days to meet compliance and fix the leak. They did not meet that compliance. However, they did come back with their plumber and said, hey, we've got some ideas. We want to try to figure it out. So that's what John was talking about. We sat down as a team and figured out some things that they could do, looking at what they wanted to do. We gave them all the options they could possibly do, sent them one more letter and told them they need to comply, or they need to make substantial progress towards complying. If they're not, we're going to shut the water off on Monday the 20th. So, and our code is 10 days and it's been 10 months. So it's outrageous.
we're talking about basically, the capacity of that thing sitting over there and what they've used.
Yeah, the 1 million gallon tank, yes.
No, I was talking about well two's over there. So I'm sorry, I pointed the wrong way. The capacity of that thing over there, they've sucked that up in the last 10 months.
The water's going somewhere.
Yeah, it's going somewhere.
And so I've actually asked our Works department, and John has had our engineer reach out to the EQ to say, hey, is there anything we should be doing or should be aware of, anything the state should be aware of? Because we don't know what's going on. It's not really our purview. So we tried to reach out to an organization that seemed to make the most sense. So it's a very serious matter.
It is. And who's paying for it?
That would be the owner.
It's post meter.
Yes,
They pay for 1 million gallons worth of water.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is they haven't fixed it, they haven't resolved it, and all they've done is they come back over and said, well, we think, we want to do this, or you know, like, no, this isn't on us. We've clearly made that clear. It's not on us. And it would be, you know, we're not gonna fix it, just like we wouldn't fix anybody else's plumbing. So it's a very big problem, and they have not taken it seriously, because what they've done is, said, well, we don't want to pay the money to fix it. Well, okay.
And they have enough money to pay the water bill.
They have enough money to pay the water bill. The water bill is typically $500, and they're paying over $3,000 a month for it. In fact, the last month they didn't pay for it, and so if they don't pay us, it's gonna be a problem too. So they got some issues.
That was identified in the notification also.
Go live in Marin County and you'll find this doesn't work real fast.
Okay, Council Marker.
So if the city plants a tree in front of my house, and all of a sudden the sidewalk turns around and comes up, I'm liable for it?
Yep.
City won't plant it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then, okay, that being said, to be fair, when are you all gonna start giving people tickets down by Salish Ponds that are illegally parking there to go fishing?
Well, that's a segue.
I didn't hear your answer.
I know, you're talking the parking on Lisa.
Yeah.
I don't know the history of that. Apparently there was some agreement with the county or something, or they wanted no parking signs because there was an accident.
There was.
It's a law enforcement.
So when are we gonna try to fix it? That's my question.
Okay, if that's the direction you want to go, I can definitely sit down with Chief Hakala and we can discuss that issue.
Okay, the reason why I'm making mention of this, it's been going on ever since I've lived here in Fairview, and that's 26 years,
I understand that.
okay?
I work for Mullen County, so I know why the signs were in.
Yes.
I'm glad you didn't plant a tree in front of my house.
I wouldn't say trees.
Neither will I.
It's an infrastructure nightmare.
Yeah, I think as far as sidewalks, the only thing, I'm just gonna echo what was being said, let's just be a little bit more proactive. I have noticed in Fairview Village, there's a number of raised ledges that have been painted, so at least it's being noticed, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, Ann.
So what happens?
Yep.
I don't have a whole lot to say. We just wrapped up the audit.
They said no for you.
They did. Just want to reiterate, I'm very, very excited to have Leslie working with us now. Today was one of the first days in a very, very long time that I actually got to sit and work on my work instead of putting out fires all over the place. And that's how well she's just stepped into her role and has taken over things. So I'm very appreciative. We are working on moving, the auditor said, mentioned that we have two versions of Tyler that don't talk very well to each other. We are working on that and currently working with Tyler to get the older version 9 up into the cloud. And then once it's in the cloud, our options for integrating, I think we have accounts receivable and we have permitting.
And licensing.
And licensing on version 9. And once we're on the cloud version, we have more ability to integrate those together. Whereas hosting them ourselves, that wasn't an option. So hopefully by the end of the year, early into 2026, we should have that issue resolved. So we are working towards the issues that the auditors have been finding. It's just, we tackle one at a time and it's very, very slow. And that's all I have. If anybody has any questions.
Thank you. Next.
All right, so good evening. So I don't have a lot either, but IT is continuing to work on our Microsoft 365 implementation and identify the best plan for the city. The last update we got was the anticipated rollout will probably be mid to late November. So that's exciting. I'm personally happy that I transitioned the management of the recycling program to the project manager, Nate Midgley. I don't know that he's really excited, but it's, another step in, like what Nathan has been doing with the structure, and I'll be able to step more into the HR role and the city recorder role, and like kind of Ann said, do what I'm actually, my job is. So that's exciting. The second edition of the quarterly Fairview Point went out. Hopefully everybody got it in their mailbox. It is being delivered through an every door direct mailer. So literally the mail person, if you have a mail receptacle, there should be one going in. It's also available online. And on the HR side of things, I am working on the recruitment for a public works technician. As soon as I get that posted, I'm going to turn around and work on getting the human resource assistant posted, who will not only be helping me, but will also be doing some assistance for our city manager to help him with his massive load. So.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Thank you. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor. You get the weekly reports, so I'm going to try to focus on more of just big updates. One thing I wanted to say, just quick update on our restructure and processing. You heard from the audits the different things we're working on making our processing. I want you to know that's everywhere in the city. Just some small examples in the past. It used to be that when everybody wanted something from IT-wise, they just went straight to our IT manager, Linda. Now we're putting processes in place where they actually go to their supervisor, go to their department head, as far as especially new purchases. It's putting those processes in place so we aren't just spinning everywhere. We had another, for example, just a quick example, in the Public Works Department, they have clothing issued, and for coats and things, they would all go to their own stores and buy whatever they liked. And so, and this is all previous, John, this is all stuff from the past. So we're all, now we're getting them standardized to get one, some options and so forth. So just, I want to give you an update because there is a tremendous amount of work that's being done. It's going to take years to get it all done, but we're working a little bit of time. And the reason I do that is because it's important to steer the ship that way. You don't just turn the rudder all the way at once. Wanted to give an update on the trees. Appreciate the discussion on trees and sidewalks. So actually, John and I were just talking about earlier this week, and two pieces of that. One, as you know, I think you know, but Sarah's working on some tree ordinance updates. So we're going to be talking about this tomorrow. Our team meeting already has a list, but one of the things too, I wanted to mention as we work on that, there could be a lot of educational campaigns. For example, putting out information on newsletter and our water bills, maybe as early as the next one, but we'll see. But with letting people know what they're responsible for, what they take care of, I think that's a really good method because it goes to all the households now, and it's actually easy to see in your mail, which really helps. And educational, the other piece of that is having the staff to go out. Like Miguel is our only engineering tech, trying to do what we can do. There's also, there's a lot of things that have not been cared for, I'll put it that way. There are a lot of things there's been a lot of things, it's easy. I don't want to go into too much detail, but like on the public works side, there's certain things they've done a really good job at, but there's a lot more to look at the big picture. It's the same job. So I'm really comprehensive and let's look at everything we're responsible for. So we are working on that. I wanted to give an update on the fire services. So right now we are at the point where the city managers have been meeting, and if you saw, hopefully you saw that giant presentation that came out from Gresham. Notice there was no fire truck on there. I would move that just for our council, but it wasn't copyrighted, so I didn't see a problem with it. But basically where we're at, they gave the proposal. If you saw that, Fire District 10, some of the things the city managers and I were just talking about today, we had a meeting about this, but if you take a look at Fire District 10, best case scenario is they're showing that they would be, let's see here. Best case scenario is showing their assessed growth value by 4.4% and cost of service growth at 3%. Right now, you may or may not be aware, but the Gresham Fire Department has 7.3 growth percent every year due to a number of different things, including their contracts and so forth, or their union contracts. And so my point is that the fire task force will be very beneficial as we look at all this. We'll be able to look at the numbers of all the different options. Very, very important. It's very important, I think, to have the 4 cities work together to be able to see these. I will say that the 3 city managers from this side, the 3 smaller cities, working very well with Gresham, absolutely. Concerned about the timeline of 5 years. We're just concerned because we have a lack of money. But I think those are things, I'm just kind of giving you a heads up and some ideas, but those are things we're going to look at in the task force. So ultimately that will, one of the things I've suggested and we talked about today with the other 2 city managers, and I'm going to be talking about in the task force, is looking at kind of our final date and then working backward and plugging everything in so we can see how we get there. So I'm not saying we should go one way or another. I'm just saying that we need to be conscious of everything that's going on. So we are continuing to work on that. MHCRC, I had a briefing with Larry Morgan today from Gresham. I also had a talk with the other 2 city managers about it. I am still wrapping my head around this because it's such a different modeling where I've ever worked, but nevertheless, what I understand is where we're at. There's just a really brief, I'm sure Councilman can give way more information than I, but there's a basic, so I just got a resolution. I printed it, meant to bring it. It's on the printer, I forgot it. But anyway, the MHCRC passed a resolution this past week, I believe, this meeting, Monday, this past few days ago. And that is to wind down and eventually end the MHCRC by the end of the fiscal year. So what I understand is that the city of Portland wants to move in their direction, and then the other cities are left with kind of their direction. So what I understand is, please correct me if I'm wrong, Councilor Denline, but what I understand is there's a question of, okay, now we move out of it. What happens to the funding that's sitting there? Does the funding go specifically to a dedicated source like, well, it would be Metro East in our case, or does that funding go back to cities divided up? And then there's different scenarios. So that's kind of where we're at, and where I'm at with the city managers and Gresham is to sit down and kind of plan what they're thinking. I know what Gresham is thinking, and we're all looking at different things. So, and then of course, ultimately the city councils will make decisions. So my job is to bring back information so you can discuss it. So the other thing I want to give a quick update on was the comprehensive compensation study. We talked about this when you approved the union contract, and the whole point of this is to get our team, because more than anything, as I've said in the beginning, as I said in my interviews, our most important asset we have are employees. We have to treat them professionally and respectfully and fairly. And the other part of it is paying them. It doesn't have to be a giant amount, but it has to be at least within a fair range. So the very first thing I did to start on this when I first started was I did all those ride-alongs. I met with everybody in their offices. I had them write out all their jobs, and they had those giant, those Post-its on my office, and then some of them were just done electronically, so there were more than just the ones that you saw. And I gave those all to our consultant. City hired a consultant, which is Lane Council of Governments, which is probably, I think, the premier, only way to do it, because they are the only governmental agency. I mean, they subcontract, but they are the governmental agency. They used to be paired with LLC to do it. At any rate, they have taken all our existing job descriptions, some of them were quite old, and put those together. Those came back, those went out to the departments, and all the employees in most cases had a chance to review them. The ones that haven't will still get a chance to review them. Department heads reviewed them, they went back to me. I've been reviewing, I'm about halfway done. In the meantime, we have worked with HR Director Deborah, and I have been working with our consultants to have comparable cities, which are actual comparable cities, not just cities that are out there. So we're excited about that. One of the cities will be Troutdale, because it's terrible. And it's just above the threshold for the population, but they were willing to include it because it's so close in proximity. You can't go below 50% population, can't go above 150. There's also, you may or may not be aware, I wasn't aware of this, but you have to, within the metro area, there's a minimum wage for employees by metro actually, but we're actually above that threshold. So we're working on that. That's projected to be done in December, and that's coming back. I'm very excited about that. And also wanted to last thing I wanted to talk about was kind of the audit for the next few years in the process. I've gotten some questions, which I appreciate very much. I put out in so this situation of like, what do we do? How do we present these? Something we actually discussed quite extensively. We have a Tuesday morning, Ann and I, and now it'll be Leslie will be involved. We have a Tuesday morning every single Tuesday at 9 o'clock since I started here, where we meet with our consulting auditors. What you saw there was Emily and Rochelle. So we meet with them, we talk, and one of the things that I really wanted to make sure was we had the big discussion where Rob Tremper, his team came out here in June and met with you all. The next 5 audits, 4 audits, several audits, a lot of audits.
At least 3.
At least 3. Well, we just had one tonight and 3 more. So the way I structured it was to have those come in and do presentations, provide you the information, because these are so far in the past that there's nothing we can do about it. We're anywhere here. The idea is to catch you up on these. And so then what we'll do, and Ann is going to be working on, we'll all work on this, but putting together a GFOA recommended audit committee, which is an audit committee of best practice, which includes a counselor, includes a budget committee person. It's going to include a person from the public, just the general public, and there's staff members, and there may be some others. We can take a look at how big that can be. We don't want it to be too big, but once that's in place, we'll have the audit committee, which will meet then every year, advance the actual audit presentation, can really dig into it. And that one's more beneficial because that's actually the one that we're actually working under. So we're actually doing now. So I did want to offer, I had the request from Councilor Owen about those letters. Typically those, as you can see, Rob presented all that information to me. So that's why I held off. I hadn't provided those, but I know Councilor Owen wanted those, which is, it's fine. It's a public document. We weren't trying to hide anything, but I sent those out to the council. So I guess what I wanted to offer is if anybody, as we move forward in this process, we're trying to work on it. If anybody wants to dig in a little bit, we'll have more information. I can meet one-on-one. I mean, Ann and I, and if we need to bring in our auditor, we'll sit down and we can, advance these. So I know Councilor Owen is interested. If anybody else is interested, please let me know. We'll still have these presentations, still have the opportunity. If you want to dig into it, if you have a desire, which is awesome, please just let me know. I just want to make that available to everybody. And that is 2 other things. One, on the fun side, I did actually attend a Faith in Blue for the city of Redmond, Washington over the weekend, which is just a little bit smaller than Gresham. It's my brother is a lieutenant. They're in charge of the detective unit, and I got to attend that. That was fun. So anyway, just want to know I did attend one, just wasn't here. But more importantly, the fire district message framework is what I wanted to roll into. So I've been working with our consultant regarding our fire emergency service, and also it's really tied together with the 3 cities, with Troutdale and Wood Village. We're all working together collaboratively. In fact, we have check-ins together, all 4 of us, and put together Mayor and I sat down with our representative, Megan Weaver, as you met, went over a framework. Basically, what this framework is kind of the framework of how the process is going about. It gives a tagline, the core message, the background. I sent this out last week for everybody to look at. Mayor and I have already gone through it. I think it looks good, but I wanted to know if you have any feedback. I mean, if you have them right now, wonderful. If not, you're more than welcome to send that to me. We will be, I can't remember which, it's coming up soon. We have it in a work session. I'm going to be bringing Megan back to talk to you. You can provide input then. We're also going to do some training on how to, kind of where we're at in the process and how to talk and how to address people as we did the, not we, excuse me, Wood Village did this and I happen to be attending it. So kind of the same thing. So if anybody has any feedback, wonderful. If not, just send it to me or call me or let me know. I'll be happy to do that. And that, Mayor, completes my report. If anybody has any questions, thank you.
The only question I have is, we were working with Troutdale and working with Metro and getting the, I don't know if it was a trip fees, but it was something to do with the waste and having it come back under our control as opposed to its current managing source, which is East County Rising. Do we have any traction on that? Do we have any idea of what's going on with that?
Oh, yes. I have not got anything recently on it. So just to explain again, what that was is the funding from the funding which came from the waste.
It's garbage.
Yeah, it's garbage. I know. I was trying to think of the proper term.
So many dollars per ton that go through the property up on Marine Drive.
So what happened a few years ago, or I guess more recent, at some point before my time, but so the Metro gives a grant because of this impact. And so this grant was being managed by the City of Troutdale, but City of Troutdale had some concerns about it. So Metro just took it and gave it to another organization, I think a third party. I'm not even sure if it's a nonprofit party, but they've been taking this grant money that was specifically supposed to be for the 3 cities, and they've been using it on other entities and other people. So Troutdale had taken the initiative because they're the ones that used to manage it, and they sent a letter or to Metro East saying, hey, we'd like to take this back. And so I know the mayor had signed that letter, and I don't have an actual update, Mayor, but I can take a look and see where we're at. I haven't heard anything yet. Take a look.
Yeah, just curious.
Yeah.
Any questions? Thank you. It is October, even month. Councilor Todd.
Let's see, we already talked about what the economic development had their meeting and with the input on our urban renewal grant stuff. East County Transportation met, and there is standard improvements for can't remember the name, what it's called. The sort of the guidelines and standards for sidewalks and crosswalks and so forth is being worked on and so forth. Update on the Marine Drive overpass where they got hit by the truck. That they did do the patch. It only took them about 8 days to get that figured out and done, but it will need to be replaced. And I believe it's a date in November where that's going to start. Yeah, so we are going to be missing a ramp. Well, they build a new ramp.
Okay.
That's what I got.
All right, Councilor Copeland.
I have nothing to report.
Okay. Councilor Owen.
Yeah, I'm good tonight, thank you.
All right, Councilor Dillon.
I attended the behind-the-scenes tour of the new Gresham Library last week. I can't believe I'm the only one that was invited, but it was phenomenal. We are going to get a library, Gresham is going to get a library, but it's East County Library, that actually is bigger than the downtown one when it's all said and done.
Yeah, it's huge.
It has public meeting spaces, it has a small auditorium. It's a gorgeous building, and really lucky to have it out here. And as City Manager George mentioned, Monday was a meeting of the MHCRC. And I'll sit down, if you want, we can sit down sometime next week and talk about this. There's a lot of moving parts, but it actually can be simplified. But the bottom line is that Gresham fired the first shot and said, we're done with the MHCRC as of the end of this fiscal year. How it unwinds and whether they take their pool of money and go away and not give anything to Metro East is kind of up to them. And the other jurisdictions are going to have to decide what they want to do. The MHCRC is obviously making the recommendation that we just surgically remove Portland and their $1-point-something million a year in management that they charge us. And we just take it back in because frankly, what the MHCRC staff does with 4.3 or 4.8 FTE, you could probably do with, 2 hours a month. And that's what we're trying to shoot for. So, but there's a lot of people who are concerned. We'll figure it out. That's all.
Councilor Marker.
Is that Gresham Library the one with the parking lot in it?
It's underneath, yeah.
It's underneath?
Yeah.
Okay. How's it look, really good?
It's fantastic.
I'll have to go down there.
Well, you have to have, it's an active construction site until the end of the year.
When's it gonna be open?
Their plan right now is to be done with construction sometime in December, but it's gonna take them 3 to 4 months to load all the books in.
Right.
And they are not taking books out of the existing circulation. They are buying, I think it's 200,000 new books for this
fantastic.
library. Yeah, it is phenomenal.
Okay, the only thing I have is John Niama sent me an email today that said that we only spent $10,500 on the Kids Free Fishing Day event, which is significantly less than what we spent last year. And I think the big reason was we didn't use much of the staff to turn around and get the show off the ground, so to speak. That's all I got.
Council Weber?
Not much to report. Shred event was great. It was a little light this year, so we're not sure if maybe we need to bump up advertising for it. But Gresham also had an event going the same day, so that also might have impacted the amount of people that we got. But still got, ton of shredded material and a ton of electronics recycled, so saving the environment, one shred event at a time. The only other thing is PSAC is hosting a cybersecurity event coming up on October 29th here in council chambers. It is free to attend, so if you know anybody that would like some information on how to protect your money, especially as we approach the busy holiday shopping period, make sure to let them know that that's happening and send them on over. The last one we had, I thought I was doing pretty good until I attended that one and learned quite a few things that I should also be doing to protect myself and my money, so good stuff.
Okay. And I have nothing to report at this time. So next is appointment to the district task force. Let people know, I'll let everybody know, we're going to be doing a little bit of shuffling on committees. We're going to be taking Councilor Copeland and having him be the liaison for PSAC. And in turn, we're going to take Councilor Weber and place her on the task force with the other 3 cities. So looking forward to that and seeing where that goes. And that's kind of where we're sitting at this point. Do we have any citizens wishing to comment on non-agenda items?
No.
Okay, then at this point, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I just want to say one thing before you adjourn.
Yeah.
I think that the choice for Counselor Weber to be on that committee was very, very well thought out, and I think you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
I wish you would have communicated with us a little sooner so we could have kind of got together as a council.
Well, that wasn't.
Give her moral support and let her know that we're behind her.
Okay.
And I think that would have been a nice thing for us to do.
Well, I will tell you this, that it was communicated to council within 48 hours of Nathan and I talking about it. So there really wasn't much more I could have done.
Okay.
It was communicated about as early as I could.
The only thing I would say to that is, I totally support the appointment, but there was a meeting mid-September, there was a presentation, slide decks, and the slide deck said, what did it say here? One each is chosen by respective city council. So I think the point here is just really more communication and a number of instances, not only recently, but in the past, where the communication side has been lacking. And so I think what Councilor Marker is saying is that it's nice that you and the city manager got together and had a meeting and made a decision. However, that's not what was shared at the mid-September meeting of how it was going to happen. So I just bring that up, it's just kind of back to the whole communication side, and I won't go through and hit on this item and that item and the other item. It's not important right now. But I don't want to take anything away from Jenny Weber participating, representing the city of Fairview and doing the job. I have 100% confidence in her ability to do that. I just think that as we move forward, I just think it would be nice to start really thinking about communicating with everybody and kind of living up to that, and all of us making a commitment to do that, Mayor.
Okay, fair enough.
Not to pile on, but I was kind of under that same impression of this was going to be more of a collaborative effort as to who we want, along with the mayor and with yourself. I mean, I understand there's no way on God's green earth that I was going to be part of that with my attitude and my personality. I get it, that's not a problem. But I still think that it would have been, I was under the impression it was going to be more collaborative as opposed to you and Nathan just making a decision.
Well, I would say that traditionally, council appointments have been made unilaterally from the mayor's position. That is.
But this was different.
That was stated from somebody else outside, and to be honest with you, it was a misstep on their part. That should not have been in there, not in my opinion. Committee appointments have always been made.
This isn't a committee, this is different.
Even then, it's always been made by the mayor.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just that, I think it's great that you two are talking and all of that, but I just go back to, I was sitting here, I listened to the presentation, and that was my takeaway when I left that night. And that's what I would have expected, but I'm not in disagreement with the path. It's just how we go about doing it.
Fair enough.
May I say something, Mayor?
Yes.
The city managers meeting together, yes, we talked about council, a counselor coming from each council. That's true, and that's supposed to be the Gresham presentation. So when I approached our mayor, he looked at the charter, and the charter says the mayor makes appointments. So it wasn't, and mayor we weren't collaborating. He was simply, wanting to know some information from me. So I'm simply, I think that's where it comes from. I'm just trying to state structure here. The structure was, the city's talked to me. Every city has a different way they're going to do it. And all the city managers have a different way, whether it's their council or their mayor, or they're going to vote or elect or draw straws. I don't know. But I was just simply stating that, yes, that's true. They said council, but that's because it would be a counselor from each council. And so the mayor had approached me and said, hey, how's this work? And we looked at the charter, and the charter says the mayor appoints. So that's all it was. I'm saying you from the city manager point of view, that's what occurred. So.
I was just trying to find out the chain of command of all this for this. And the reason why I say this is when we have citizens that want to apply to be on a committee, their application form is brought up here, and the council decides on whether they're going to be on that committee or not, okay? I would have loved to have done that with Jenny, okay, because I wanted her to know that everybody up here on this dais is in support of her 100%, okay? And be that as it may, I don't think we would have had one person that would have turned around and said no. But when we do something different than what we normally do it, it kind of makes you question, well, what's the chain of command really? Who's in charge? I mean, to be truthful and honest with you, I got a little confused. Now, if the chain of command runs through you, I'd like to know about it.
No.
I mean, I know it runs through the mayor because he's the boss around here, okay? But if you have, seriously, if you're in the chain of command there, I'd really like to know, okay? So that way I know what to expect in the future.
There's no, I appreciate that. There's no chain of command here. I am the city manager, right? But my point, I'm working with the four cities including us, to try to put together a task force. So I was simply trying to give you the information on, the task force is different than a committee. A task force, in this case, we identified there'd be a counselor, the mayor, city manager, there's also the fire chief and a representative of the union, which will be Kevin, and then there's a representative of Fire District 10. And the reason they want a Fire District 10 was because they're a contracted service, or they contract through them. So that was the whole discussion. So when I talked with the mayor, that's really a protocol of the council. And what I understood from the charter is that the mayor appoints. So I'm just a structure person. I'm not trying to advise you on how to do your business. I'm simply stating what the thoughts were. So, but I'm just.
Yeah, and I understand your comments, Councilor Marker. This is a little bit different than appointing a member of the community to a committee. This is a council level decision. And as Nathan has stated, it's in the charter, as history has chosen. or as history has illustrated, that when it comes time for appointments amongst the council, that has traditionally been made by the mayor. So it's not different. And we haven't done anything like this in a long time, but it's not different.
But I do think this is going forward, I mean, there's been a message here tonight.
I agree.
And so let's not just fall back on how we've done things in the past. Maybe let's try to take a look at how we move things forward.
Fair enough. And I would say that communication goes both ways. I'm more than happy to answer questions.
Well, okay, I got it, but answering a question and just communicating and informing are two different things. I would make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Let's go.
For what it's worth, we went off the air and Henry didn't get to see the end of that discussion.
Hey,
That was, boom, we went off the air because we posted 10 times.
If you didn't reach out to, a meeting.